Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Around 100 people have been evacuated from a besieged steel plant in the southern city of Mariupol. Civilians being helped by members of the Azov regiment through the rubble and onto buses. Evacuees had been sheltering there with fighters for weeks. Hundreds more civilians remain trapped, and President Zelensky says he hopes further evacuations can take place soon. Meanwhile, President Zelensky has warned that the conflict could trigger a food crisis affecting countries around the world. Speaking to Australian news programme 60 Minutes, Zelensky said his country could lose tens of millions of tons of grain because Russia had blockaded its ports on the Black Sea. Ukraine is one of the world's top exporters of grain and other food products. The US House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi has met with the Polish President Andrzej Duda at the presidential palace in Warsaw. Pelosi's office issued a statement saying that the US delegation came to Poland to send an unmistakable message to the world that America stands firmly with our NATO allies in our support for Ukraine. In the meeting, officials discussed how they can further work together to support Ukraine. It's after Pelosi met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev on Sunday. Israel's foreign minister has denounced an unforgivable remarks by his Russian counterpart that Nazi leader Adolf Hitler had Jewish blood. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov made the comments to try and justify Russia's portrayal of Ukraine as Nazi despite the fact its president is Jewish. Israel's foreign ministry summoned Russia's ambassador for clarification and demanded an apology. Nazi Germany murdered 6 million Jews in the Holocaust in World War II. Mr. Lavrov made the remarks in an interview on Italian TV days after Israel marked Holocaust Remembrance Day, one of the most solemn occasions in the Israeli calendar. Muslims across the Middle East have attended Eid prayers, one of the first customs that marks the end of the fasting month of Ramadan. Thousands of worshippers flock to mosques in their capitals, reciting ritual scriptures, praying and greeting each other. Celebrations are held all over the world where people celebrate with their families and their loved ones. Cities across the world are clearing up after protests turned violent during May Day marches and celebrations yesterday. Here, Chilean police clashing with demonstrators during a protest in the streets of Santiago. Police fired water cannon and tear gas as protesters threw stones and Molotov cocktails. Meanwhile, riot police faced flames and thick clouds of smoke as violence erupted in the French capital, Paris. And scuffles broke out as dozens of protesters tried to reach Istanbul's main Taksim Square. They were demonstrating against economic hardship caused by inflation. The airliner Qantas has announced it will begin operating non-stop flights from Sydney to London and New York from 2025. Australia's national carrier said it had purchased a new fleet of Airbus A350 jets capable of direct flights to any city in the world. The first Sydney to London flights will depart in late 2025 and take about 20 hours, making them the world's longest passenger flights. The route, launched in 1947, once took 58 hours and 7 stops.
This is a big day for Qantas. It's a big day for Australian aviation. I think it's a big day for world aviation.
New Zealand and Hong Kong have both reopened their borders to more international visitors after a pandemic lockout of more than 2 years. Travellers touched down at Auckland Airport, many to emotional reunions with families and friends. Meanwhile, Hong Kong reopened to non-residents on Sunday. That's the first time in 2 years that travellers have been allowed to enter the financial hub since the pandemic began. And 3 new photographs of Princess Charlotte have been released to mark her 7th birthday. The pictures were taken by her mother, the Duchess of Cambridge, in Norfolk, and they show her sitting among bluebells and hugging her pet Cocker Spaniel, Orla. She is 4th in line to the throne and is the only daughter of Catherine and the Duke of Cambridge. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.